Hi folks, I hope you're doing well. And for me, where I am, this is Sunday night, and I'm thinking about what's going to happen in the week ahead, as I'm sure you are too. Lots of things that will be unpredictable, some things that we might predict. But I always think on a Sunday night, we anticipate what's coming in the next few days. So tonight, I just want to talk about one particular word, and it was relayed to me by a very wise person last week, and it's the word cherish. And I think that we have some opinions as to what that word means, and it means different things in each of our lives. I want to just spend a few moments talking about it, but probably in a way, certainly towards the end of what I'm going to say, that's just a wee bit different. Because I think that sometimes with these words, we grow up with them, we talk about cherishing people or events or objects, whatever it might be. But there are other aspects always that are there. So, for example, when I talk to clients, I talk about how they might cherish different aspects of their lives. And that can be difficult often because I think sometimes we become desensitized to the good stuff that we take around with us and that we carry around with us, and those emotions that are there that are very positive. So I want to talk about that just in the next few moments. But I want us to start off with thinking about events that we might cherish in life. We all have different events that we can, when we recall those events, when we bring them back to mind, that we have that feeling that, that was a very good thing and that was a wonderful experience to have. Now, we can think about it in many different ways, but let us think about it in terms of what many of us experience, I guess, if you like. So, birth of babies is one of the things that we cherish, and I think any of us that have been through that experience, whether we're giving birth or whether we're on the sidelines being supportive, hopefully, is that you don't forget that experience, and it's something that is probably seared into your mind, and maybe for some quite difficult reasons, obviously, but for the fact that you see this new life coming into the world, and that little person is unique, and that little person is part of you, and all being well, they're going to have a long number of years in front of them at which they'll be very much part of your life. And that is something to cherish beyond almost anything I think that we can think of. So we can imagine ourselves back there again, we can see things vividly in our mind, we can feel those emotions again. And I know for me that it was quite unexpected, the emotions that I had when the first child was born. And I just burst into tears and I couldn't stop, and so I couldn't see much of what was happening at that point, when the baby was passed to me. And I remember that very vividly, and it was such a wonderful experience to see that little person for the first time. Amazing, absolutely amazing. So for some of us, if we've been married, that's something else that is an event that we might cherish. And I think that the difficulty can be that, say we've been married and we're divorced, and some people say to me that they cherish that moment of divorce, if you like, and that's absolutely fine, because we all experience these things differently. But when we think about moments like that, sometimes it can be difficult, probably in the early stages, to separate the actual event of the marriage, which had all of those emotions there and is very positive, and there's lots of love there, with what subsequently happened. And that's one of these tricks, I think, that we develop over time. So it can still be a very cherished moment, because I don't think anybody goes into a marriage looking to divorce. It's just one of these things that happens, unfortunately, for many, many different reasons. So if we can separate those two, then definitely, that point in time, that marriage can be still cherished. Then there are the moments in life when you meet someone. It doesn't matter what the setting is. It could be, it could be a work setting. It could be any setting. That there's something different there that you can pick up on, and you hear that phrase, it takes your breath away, and you remember that moment. And that is a very powerful thing as well to cherish. And that might happen once in your life, it might happen a few times. But when it does, it's important to acknowledge that and to say that this is something that's quite different. Other things, moments in time. So I'll give you a couple of examples of moments in time that are very meaningful for me and that I cherish. So one of the things is when I first moved to Norway and I went out to work in the research station that I spent a bit of time in. That was in the fjords, or the beginning of the fjords in Norway. It was in one of those areas. And I remember going out on the little ferry boat to the place where I was going to be working. And the mountains were absolutely breathtaking, like nothing I'd ever seen before. The height, how imposing they were. It was just, I couldn't take my eyes off the scenery. And I remember thinking, am I really here? Is this, is this real? Because I'd obviously seen it in various places, and I knew where I was going, and I knew roughly what to expect. And then once I got there, there was I think the next day, I think, one of my colleagues, one of the admin people there, she took me for a drive around to show me some of the sights, and it was absolutely stunning. And I remember that vividly. And it was our car was a convertible. So I was going to say, I had the wind in my hair. I didn't really, but it was an amazing experience. So that's something I remember. Likewise, when I was in New Zealand, there's a time I remember when I went there for my interview, and the town that we ended up living in. I remember standing there and just looking out to the sea, and it was blue skies, and it was absolutely stunning. And it was another one of those experiences. Is this real? So I remember that vividly. And then, living in various points or parts, should I say, of Scotland, particularly on the west coast, and the summer sunsets, looking out to the islands of Jura and Islay. I mean, it's just incredible, absolutely incredible. So those things are there. So those are moments, only very sort of short periods of time, but yet they're there. And that was many years ago now. I mean, so between 20 and 30 years ago, pretty much. But I still remember those things vividly. And so those are moments. So we cherish people. That's what we really think about, isn't it, when we think about cherishing someone? So we cherish those that are very much close to us, those people that we love, and we cherish them unconditionally. So they might be, a bit of a pain from time to time, but we still cherish them because there's a bond there that's really, really vital between us. And that can be, as I say, people in our family, but it can also be other people. It can be friends. It can be people who have influenced us. It can be people that we look up to. It can be, elders within a community. Whatever that is, there are people all around us that we cherish. Now, Ulysses Grant, who was a US president, he said this as well about people that we should cherish. He said, "The friend in my adversity I shall always cherish most." And I think he taps into something there that's a reality for most of us, that when things are going really well, it's easy to be a friend at that point. But when things start to crumble, when things start to go wrong, that's when that level of friendship comes through, if you like. And often, though, in adversity, it can be sometimes people that we least expect that would be there for us. So he's absolutely right about cherishing people who are there for us when we're facing adversity, whatever that might be. It might be in a job situation, it might be in a personal situation, family situation, whatever it is. If there's someone there that is with you, then that's incredibly powerful. So that's something to cherish. Now, I'll do another reflection on that in terms of how we relate to others, work environments, family environments, other environments there as well, because that's really quite, well, there's a lot to say basically, but I'll just leave that there for the moment. This is the one that really intrigues me. Okay, so Henry David Thoreau, who was an American naturalist. I hope I've got that right. I always get it mixed up with naturists. So he was an American naturalist, and was also a very wise man. And he said this, and I think this is brilliant. He said, "Make the most of your regrets. Never smother your sorrow, but tend and cherish it till it comes to have a separate and integral interest." And he says this that I think rounds it off perfectly. To regret deeply is to live afresh. Now, as we think about that, there may be something within us that said, well, hang on a second, regret, how on earth can we cherish the regrets that we have? But he's definitely onto something, because any of us that live for any length of time have regrets. Of course we do, we must have, because that's part of living. I've heard people that say that they don't have regrets, and that might be true, but I think there's maybe an issue of definition there, because if we're feeling people, if we have those emotions, then we are going to regret perhaps things that we've done, things that have upset other people that we wish that we'd never done. Those sorts of things are there, I would say, for most of us. But what we try to do with those regrets almost is to push them away, or to push them down. And when we do that, that means, I suppose, that we're not learning from them. And that's what Thoreau was trying to say, basically. So tend them. So let those emotions that come along with the regrets, let those come up, and let those be what they are, and experience those for what they are. Not easy, but I think it's one way of doing it, and to cherish those regrets, because they are things that we've done, we've acted upon, and we've looked at, and we've thought about, and we probably wish that we had never done that. So that's why I think that reflection and that ability of us to, as thinking beings, to be much more aware of that. So the regrets can have that separate interest that Thoreau was talking about. So it's something that we're very much aware of, and we can bring that to mind whenever we need to do that. And also, as we learn from our regrets, I always say, to people that I think one of the key things about being human is that we learn, and we're constantly learning. And sometimes we're not even aware that we're doing it. Some of it we do subconsciously. The rest of it, we're consciously aware of it, but we're always learning. And that's one of the beautiful things about being human. We're constantly learning. And so there's so much in our lives that we can look at and learn from, every one of us. And this is it. To regret deeply is to live afresh. And I think that's right. So when we regret something deeply, then it calls us to re-experience those emotions, to re-experience whatever it was that we were experiencing at that point in time. And that is very powerful. And to live means to make mistakes. To live means to get things wrong. To live means to constantly be trying to do better in whatever way we define that. So regrets are part of living that vibrant life. Would we rather not have them? Of course, but they're there. And when they're there, we're called to action, if you like, to think about those things. So I hope that that's been useful. Again, I would use some of those concepts in therapy, and hopefully I would use some of those concepts personally. But again, these things are, we're never perfect, and we don't quite get there. It's a lifelong process. So I hope that was in some way useful, and I'll come back with a bit more on, how we cherish people in our lives, people that we respect, and what have you, that whole range of things. So that'll be probably a longer video than this, which is quite long. But thank you for listening to me, and have a good week. Take care.